She was born on a quiet morning when the sky was pale and tired, as if it already knew what kind of life awaited her. At first, her parents smiled and held her close, believing she would grow up, marry, and give them grandchildren who would carry their name forward. In their small town, a woman's worth was measured by what she could give to others, not by who she was. For many years, no one questioned this belief. It was simply the way things had always been. As she grew older, she tried very hard to be the daughter her parents wanted. She worked in the house, helped in the fields, and followed every rule without complaint. She was quiet, polite, and obedient. Neighbors often said she was a good girl, the kind any parent should be proud of. But pride slowly faded when whispers began to spread. After her marriage failed and doctors spoke words her parents did not want to hear, everything changed. She could not have children. The word infertility entered their home like a shadow that refused to leave. At first, her parents pretended it did not matter. They told others it was only temporary, that miracles happened all the time. But inside the house, the air grew heavy. Her mother avoided her eyes. Her father spoke less and less, his silence sharp and cold. Every small problem became her fault. If food burned, if money was short, if neighbors talked, it all came back to her. She felt it in the way doors closed too loudly, and in the way her name was spoken only when something went wrong. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. The house that once felt like home now felt like a place where she did not belong. She heard her parents arguing late at night, their voices low but angry. They talked about shame, about the future, about how people laughed behind their backs. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, feeling smaller with every word. She wanted to speak, to say she was still the same person, but fear kept her quiet. She believed that if she stayed silent and worked harder, things might return to how they were before. But they did not. Her parents stopped hiding their disappointment. Her mother's words became sharp, filled with blame. Her father looked at her as if she were a mistake that could never be fixed. In their eyes, she was no longer a daughter but a problem. Meals were eaten in silence, and sometimes she was not called to the table at all. She learned to eat alone, quickly, like someone who was afraid of being noticed. The worst part was not the anger but the coldness. Love was replaced by distance. The warmth she once felt as a child disappeared completely. She realized that in their hearts, she had already been pushed aside. She cried quietly at night, pressing her face into her pillow so no one would hear. Tears became her only way to release the pain she carried inside. One evening, she overheard a conversation that made her blood run cold. Her parents were talking about her future as if she were not human. They spoke about money, about solutions, about how to get rid of the burden she had become. She did not understand every word, but she understood enough. They were thinking of a way to remove her from their lives. The thought crushed her chest, leaving her breathless. From that moment on, fear followed her everywhere. Every look, every whisper made her heart race. She watched her parents carefully, searching for signs of mercy, but found none. Deep inside, she still hoped they would change their minds. She believed that parents could not truly abandon their own child. That hope was the only thing keeping her standing. But hope is fragile when it is fed by silence and rejection. The girl who once felt loved now felt unwanted, like something broken that could not be repaired. She did not know what awaited her, only that her life was slipping out of her hands. Ending line, she did not know it yet, but the choice her parents were about to make would push her into a fate darker than she ever imagined. The next morning felt strange, as if the house itself was holding its breath. She woke up early, before the sun, and listened to the silence around her. No one called her name. No one asked her to help with chores. That alone felt unusual. In the past, she was always needed for something. Now, she felt invisible, like she had already faded from the family. Her mother moved through the house quietly, avoiding her eyes. Her father sat near the door, sharpening a tool he did not need to sharpen. The sound scraped against her nerves. Every movement felt planned, careful, and cold. She tried to speak once, asking if there was work to be done, but her voice fell into the air and disappeared. No answer came back. That silence hurt more than shouting ever could. By afternoon, strangers arrived. Two men she had never seen before stood near the doorway. Their clothes were rough, their faces unreadable. They spoke in low voices with her parents, glancing at her from time to time as if she were an object being inspected. She felt her stomach twist. Fear crawled up her spine, slow and heavy. She wanted to leave the room, but her legs refused to move. Money appeared on the table. Not much, but enough to change things for people who were desperate. Coins and folded bills lay there, lifeless and cruel. She stared at them, trying to understand why they were there. Her heart began to pound as the truth slowly formed in her mind. This was not about her future. This was about a transaction. Her mother finally looked at her, but there was no warmth in her eyes. Only tiredness and relief. Her father nodded toward the men, as if giving permission. No one explained anything to her. No one asked what she wanted. She was told to pack a small bag, only the basics. Clothes, nothing more. No memories. No keepsakes. No proof that she had ever belonged there. As she packed, her hands shook. Every piece of clothing felt heavier than the last. She looked around the room where she had grown up, touching the walls one final time. She wanted to scream, to beg, to remind them she was their daughter. But the words stayed trapped in her chest. Somewhere deep inside, she knew begging would change nothing. When she stepped outside, the sun was too bright, almost cruel. The world looked the same, yet everything had changed. Her parents stood behind her, distant and silent. No goodbye was spoken. No blessing given. The men took her bag and motioned for her to follow. She turned back one last time, hoping, still hoping, to see regret on her parents' faces. There was none. The walk felt endless. Dust clung to her shoes. The road stretched forward like a path with no return. The men spoke to each other, laughing softly, as if this were an ordinary day. She walked behind them, feeling smaller with every step. Her thoughts raced. Where were they taking her? What would happen to her? Fear wrapped around her heart, tightening with each breath. After some time, they stopped near the edge of a forest. Tall trees loomed ahead, dark and silent. The air felt colder there. One of the men handed her bag back to her and pointed toward the trees. Money changed hands again. Quick. Quiet. Final. She realized then that this was the end of the deal. She was no longer anyone's responsibility. Without a word, the men turned and walked away. She stood there alone, frozen in place. The sound of their footsteps faded, leaving her with nothing but the wind and her own breathing. She wanted to chase after them, but terror held her still. She hugged her bag tightly, as if it were the only thing keeping her from falling apart. As night began to fall, fear turned into despair. She had been sold, discarded, and abandoned, all in one day. The world she knew was gone. In its place stood a forest full of unknown dangers and a future she could not imagine. Tears streamed down her face, but no one was there to see them. She whispered her parents' names one last time, hoping the wind might carry her voice back to them. It did not. Ending line. Left between the road and the wilderness, she finally understood her life had been traded away for silence and coins. Night came faster than she expected. The sky slowly darkened, and the trees around her began to look taller and closer, as if they were watching her. She stood at the edge of the forest with her small bag clutched against her chest, unsure which way to go. The road behind her was empty, silent, and uncaring. No one was coming back for her. That truth settled deep inside her, heavy and painful. She took a few careful steps forward, her feet shaking with fear. Every sound felt louder in the darkness. The rustle of leaves, the snap of a branch, the cry of some distant animal. She had never been alone like this before. Even in her worst moments at home, there had been walls, a roof, and familiar voices. Now there was only open land and endless shadows. Hunger began to bite at her stomach, sharp and demanding. She had not eaten since morning, and the fear made it worse. She searched her bag and found a small piece of bread, already dry and hard. She ate it slowly, trying to make it last, knowing it was all she had. Each bite reminded her how unprepared she was for this new life. She tried to walk deeper into the forest, thinking maybe she would find a house or a fire or even another road. But the trees only grew thicker. The ground became uneven, and she stumbled more than once, scraping her hands and knees. Pain spread through her body, but she did not stop. Stopping felt more dangerous than moving. Her thoughts drifted back to her childhood. She remembered laughing as a little girl, running through open fields, believing the world was kind. That version of her felt like someone else now, someone who had lived a life far away from this darkness. She wondered how things had gone so wrong, how love had turned into rejection so easily. As the night grew colder, fear turned into panic. She hugged herself, trying to keep warm, her breath shaking. Tears flowed freely now. She no longer tried to hide them. There was no one left to pretend for. She cried for the family that had abandoned her, for the life she had lost, and for the future she could not see. At some point, exhaustion forced her to stop. She curled up near a tree, using her bag as a pillow. The ground was hard, and sleep came in short, broken pieces. Every small sound woke her. Each time she opened her eyes, she expected to see danger standing over her. But the night passed slowly, painfully, without mercy. When morning finally came, it did not bring relief. The light only showed her how alone she truly was. The forest stretched endlessly in every direction. Her clothes were dirty, her body sore, and her spirit weak. She stood up slowly, her legs trembling, and took a deep breath. Giving up crossed her mind, but something inside her refused to let her fall completely. She walked again, guided only by instinct. Hours passed. The sun climbed higher, burning her skin. Thirst made her lips crack. She searched for water, finding only dry ground and fallen leaves. Her steps became slower, heavier. Each breath felt like effort. Just when she thought she could not go on, she heard something different. A sound that did not belong to the forest. A sharp, steady noise. Chop. 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 It was faint at first, but it was real. Her heart jumped. Hope, small and fragile, sparked inside her chest. She followed the sound, pushing through branches, ignoring the pain. With every step, the noise grew louder. Then she saw smoke rising in the distance. Her vision blurred with tears, not of fear this time, but of desperate relief. She wanted to run, but her body was too weak. She forced herself forward, one step at a time. As she reached a small clearing, her strength finally failed. The world spun around her, and her knees gave way. She fell to the ground, her body unable to carry her any further. Her eyes closed as darkness wrapped around her once more. She did not know who was nearby. She did not know if help would come. Ending line, on the edge of the forest, between life and loss, her fate waited to be decided by a stranger she had yet to see. The sound of the axe echoed through the forest, steady and strong, breaking the morning silence again and again. The man swinging it moved with practice, his body shaped by years of hard labor. He lived alone in a small wooden cabin hidden deep among the trees, far from the town and even farther from people. The forest was the only place where his heart felt calm. People brought memories, and memories brought pain. He was a lumberjack by trade, but loneliness had become his true companion. Years ago, his life had been different. There had been laughter in his home, warmth by the fire, and a woman whose smile made the hard days feel lighter. But fate had taken her away, leaving him alone with 4 children and a broken heart. Raising them by himself had changed him. He learned to be strong, silent, and distant. Trust no longer came easily. That morning, he worked as usual, cutting wood to sell in the nearby village. His hands were rough, his back tired, but he did not complain. Work kept his mind busy and his memories quiet. The forest listened without judgment. The trees did not ask questions. They did not leave. As he lifted his axe again, something caught his eye near the edge of the clearing. At first, He thought it was an animal. Then he saw a figure lying on the ground. Small. Still. His heart skipped a beat. He lowered the axe slowly and walked closer, every step careful. It was a young woman. Her clothes were torn and dusty, her face pale and tired. She looked fragile, like she had been carrying pain for a long time. For a moment, he stood there, unsure what to do. Helping her meant inviting trouble into his quiet life. He had spent years building walls around his heart. Letting someone in felt dangerous. But then he noticed her breathing, shallow, weak, but still there. He knelt beside her, his expression hard but his hands gentle. She was alive, but barely. Hunger and exhaustion clung to her like shadows. He remembered his children when they were small, helpless, needing him. That memory broke something inside him. With a heavy sigh, he made a choice. He lifted her carefully, surprised by how light she was, and carried her toward his cabin. The weight in his arms felt different from the weight he carried in his heart. This one came with responsibility, fear, and something else he had not felt in years: hope. The cabin was simple but warm. He laid her on his bed, covering her with a blanket. He gave her water, letting it touch her lips slowly until she swallowed. She did not wake, but her breathing grew steadier. He stepped back, watching her like she might disappear if he looked away. His children returned later that day, their faces curious and cautious when they saw the stranger. They had learned not to ask many questions. Life had taught them that answers often hurt. The lumberjack told them only that she needed help. That was enough for now. As night fell, he sat by the fire, staring into the flames. He wondered who she was, where she came from, and why she had been left to die in the forest. He also wondered why fate had brought her to him. He had not asked for this. He had chosen isolation for a reason. Yet, as the fire crackled in the cabin filled with quiet breathing, he felt something shift inside him. The forest had always given him peace, but now it had given him a test. Protect his solitude, or protect a life. He looked toward the room where she rested, his jaw tightening with resolve. Whatever pain this choice might bring, he knew one thing for certain. He could not turn his back on someone who had already been abandoned by the world. Ending line: in saving her life, the lonely lumberjack unknowingly opened the door to a future that would change his and his children's hearts forever. When she finally woke up, the first thing she felt was warmth. Not just from the blanket covering her, but from the quiet around her. It was a different kind of silence than the forest. This one felt safe. She opened her eyes slowly and saw wooden walls, a small window, and soft light coming through it. For a moment, she thought she was dreaming. Then pain rushed back into her body, reminding her everything was real. She tried to sit up, but her strength failed her. Before fear could take over, a deep voice spoke gently, telling her to rest. She turned her head and saw the lumberjack standing nearby. His face was serious, his eyes tired, but there was no threat in him. Only caution. He told her she was safe and that she was in his home. She did not know why, but tears filled her eyes. No one had said the word safe to her in a long time. As the day passed, she became aware of the children. 4 of them. They watched her from a distance, curious but guarded. They had learned to be careful with strangers. Life had already taken too much from them. Each child carried pain in their own way, one quiet, one angry, one distant, one pretending to be strong. She saw herself in them, and it hurt. The lumberjack did not ask her many questions. He gave her food, simple but warm, and made sure she drank enough water. His kindness was quiet, not demanding anything in return. Still, she felt uneasy. She did not want to be a burden again. She had been unwanted once, and the memory of that rejection lived deep inside her. Days passed slowly. She helped where she could, cleaning small things, folding clothes, keeping to herself. The children remained distant, unsure if she would stay or disappear like others before her. At night, she lay awake, listening to the sounds of the cabin, the wind, the fire, soft footsteps. Each sound reminded her she was no longer alone, yet she had never felt more afraid of belonging. The lumberjack watched her carefully. He noticed how she flinched at raised voices, how she apologized too often, how she tried to take up as little space as possible. These were signs he recognized. He had seen them in his children after their mother died. Pain leaves marks that do not fade easily. One evening, the youngest child offered her a small wooden toy. It was simple, roughly carved, but it meant more than words. She held it like a treasure, her hands shaking. That small act cracked the wall around her heart. She smiled for the first time in days, and the child smiled back. It was a fragile moment, but it mattered. Slowly, the house began to change. Not dramatically, but gently. Shared meals became quieter then warmer. The children began asking small questions. Where she came from. If she liked the forest. If she was afraid of the dark. She answered honestly, without details, afraid of scaring them with her past. But honesty built trust, little by little. Still, doubt followed her everywhere. She worried the lumberjack would regret helping her. She worried the children would grow attached and then be hurt. She worried that her presence would bring trouble. The fear of being unwanted again never truly left her. One night, she overheard the children arguing. They were afraid she would leave. The words struck her deeply. She realized they were just as scared as she was. All of them were holding on to something fragile, afraid it would break. She sat alone by the fire, staring into the flames, thinking about family. The one she lost. The one she never had. And the one forming quietly around her. She did not know if she deserved the second chance. But she knew she wanted to protect it. The lumberjack joined her, sitting across the fire. He did not speak, but his presence was steady. In that moment, she felt something new, not happiness, not peace, but possibility. Ending line. In a house built from loss and silence, broken hearts were slowly learning how to beat together again. Peace never arrived loudly. It came quietly, like a soft habit, and for a while she believed it might stay. Days in the cabin had begun to follow a gentle rhythm. Mornings started with shared work, afternoons with tired laughter, and nights with firelight and calm silence. She was no longer just a guest. She had become part of the space between them. And that scared her more than being alone ever had. Because peace, she had learned, was easy to break. It began with small signs. A stranger's footprint near the edge of the forest. Voices drifting too close to the cabin one afternoon. The lumberjack noticed them too. His shoulders stiffened, his eyes sharper than before. He said nothing, but the way he locked the door at night told her enough. Something from the outside world was moving toward them. Her heart filled with fear. She knew that fear well. It was the same one she felt the day she was sold. The same cold weight pressing against her chest. She began to pull back, speaking less, helping more, trying to make herself invisible again. Old habits returned quickly. Too quickly. The children noticed. They asked her what was wrong, but she smiled and said she was tired. She did not want to frighten them. They had already lost too much. She convinced herself that if she left quietly, no one would be hurt. If trouble was coming, it should take her and spare them. One evening, the truth arrived without warning. Two men stood at the edge of the clearing, the same men who had taken money for her life. Their faces were older, harder, but she recognized them instantly. Her body froze. Her breath vanished. She felt like that frightened girl again, standing on a road with nothing but fear and silence. The lumberjack stepped forward, placing himself between them and the cabin. His voice was calm, but firm. The men spoke of mistakes, unfinished business, and claims they believed still mattered. They said her parents wanted answers. They said she belonged to someone else. Every word felt like a knife. She wanted to scream that she belonged nowhere. That she had been thrown away. That no one had the right to claim her again. But fear stole her voice. Shame followed close behind. She waited for the lumberjack to look at her differently, to see her as trouble, as a mistake. Instead, he listened quietly. Then he spoke words she had never heard before. He said no one owned another human being. He said she was under his protection. He said they were not welcome. The men left, but their presence did not. That night, sleep refused to come. She sat alone, shaking, memories crashing over her. The pain she thought she had buried was alive again. She realized the past did not stay behind just because you walked away from it. Sometimes it followed. The next morning, she made her decision. She packed her bag quietly, hands trembling. She wrote no note. She did not trust herself to explain without breaking apart. She believed leaving was the only way to keep them safe. Love, she thought, meant sacrifice. And she was used to being the one who gave things up. She stepped outside before sunrise, tears blurring her vision. But she did not get far. The children were waiting. All 4 of them. Silent. Angry. Hurt. They asked her why she was leaving. She tried to lie, but her voice failed her. The truth spilled out, about her past, the sale, the abandonment, the danger. She expected fear or rejection. Instead, she saw understanding. They had been abandoned too. In different ways, but with the same pain. The lumberjack came then, standing behind his children. He listened to everything. When she finished, she looked at the ground, waiting for him to tell her to go. He didn't. He told her running would not protect anyone. He told her the past only had power if they let it decide their future. He told her this home was not temporary. For the first time, she cried openly, not from fear, but from relief. Ending line. When the past returned to claim her, she learned that this time, she was no longer facing it alone. The forest felt different after that night. The trees stood the same, the wind moved the same, but inside the cabin, something had changed forever. The truth was no longer hidden. Her past was no longer a shadow following her alone. It had been spoken, heard, and accepted. Still, fear did not disappear so easily. It waited quietly, testing every moment of peace. The lumberjack became more watchful. He checked the land around the cabin each morning and kept his tools close. He did not want to frighten the children, but he also did not lie to them. He told them the world could be cruel, but that cruelty did not get to decide who they were. The children listened closely. They had lived through loss. They understood more than words could say. She tried to return to normal, but her heart remained restless. Every sound outside made her tense. Every stranger she imagined filled her with dread. Deep inside, she feared that one day someone would come again and take her away. Not because she belonged to them, but because she had learned that people with power often won. One afternoon, news reached the nearby village. Her parents had been asking questions. They spoke of regret, of confusion, of wanting her back. The words reached the cabin like poison carried on the wind. She felt sick when she heard. Not because she missed them, but because the past was trying to rewrite itself. She did not want to go back. Not to the people who had sold her like a burden. Not to the house that had turned cold long before she left. But fear whispered that blood was stronger than choice. That love could be taken away as easily as it was given. That evening, the lumberjack gathered everyone by the fire. The children sat close together. She sat slightly apart, unsure of her place. He spoke slowly, choosing his words with care. He said people believed family was decided by blood, but blood had failed all of them in one way or another. He said family was built by showing up, by staying, by choosing each other every day. Then he turned to her. He asked her what she wanted. Not what she feared. Not what others expected. What she wanted. No one had ever asked her that before. Her voice shook as she answered. She said she wanted to stay. She wanted to belong somewhere without being afraid. She wanted to stop running. The children reacted first. One by one, they spoke. They said she helped them. They said she listened. They said the house felt warmer with her in it. Their words were simple, but they carried truth. She covered her mouth, overwhelmed by emotion. The lumberjack nodded slowly. Then he made his choice clear. He said no one would take her away. Not her parents. Not strangers. Not the past. He said if anyone tried, they would have to go through him first. Those words settled deep into her heart. Days passed, and the threats slowly faded. No one came. No one knocked. Life continued quieter but stronger. She began to laugh again, softly at first, then freely. She helped teach the children to read better, to cook, to talk about their feelings instead of hiding them. The cabin filled with sounds she had almost forgotten: laughter, teasing, shared stories. Still, she carried scars. Some nights, she woke from dreams of being left behind again. But now, when she woke, there were voices nearby. There was light. There was proof she was not alone. She realized something important. Love did not erase pain, but it made pain bearable. It did not change the past, but it changed the future. The forest no longer felt like a place she was trapped in. It felt like a shield. A home. A place where she had been chosen not for what she could give, but for who she was. And for the first time in her life, she believed she was enough. Ending line. When love was finally chosen over blood, she learned that real family is not found, it is built.